Now you signed a letter of intent to play at the University of Northern Iowa. Um, Give us your thoughts and your goals as a freshman going to a University of Northern Iowa.
When I was born in Northern Iowa, it was, you're finally going to be on your own. You get out of your mom and dad's, your home, and you're going to be an adult for once. So I think it was an experience for me. It was a learning experience for me, to move 3 hours away from home, away from my parents, and become an adult. And going in at the time, Northern Iowa had two senior cornerbacks that were all conference and great corners. So I knew going in it was most likely going to be a redshirt year for me, and I was fine with that because I think just physically, mentally adept into college, and the overall being an adult, having you don't worry about your parents, having someone wake you up in the morning, having someone telling you where you need to be. Like I said, just becoming an adult, and I think the transition, it was good for me to take that year and just work on myself, work on my academics. Like I said, which is a huge thing in this day and age where if your academics aren't right, sports don't matter. So it was good for me to be able to get my grades right and be ready to play football.
Now, now you also was playing basketball. Give us your experience as a freshman basketball player.
It was great. Like I said, I had a very good time. The only difference is it was a little weird transition because, like I said, I was on a full-ride football scholarship, but the opportunity to play basketball, where technically I was somewhat of a walk-on, but didn't have to compete to be able to play. So I went in and I was behind the eight ball because those guys have been training for basketball for all year, and then I would come in after playing football and try to make that transition. So for the first 2 or 3 months, I think it was a more of a conditioning thing and just trying to get back in the flow. And these guys have been playing basketball year round. So, but overall, like I said, I wouldn't change anything about it. I love my experience playing basketball in Northern Iowa, and had a great time.
Gotcha. Now let's go to your next year in college, which is your red shirt freshman year. You had a breakout game against Iowa University. Give us experience on that.
Being a 1AA school, you don't get to sometimes to play the bigger schools, the Big Ten schools, the SEC schools. We were fortunate enough to open up against University of Iowa, where growing up as a kid, you like to play in front of the TVs and the limelight, and I was blessed enough to have one of my best games of my career against the University of Iowa. Even though we didn't win the game individually, I put up some great stats. I ended up with 3 interceptions and overall a great day.
Wow. So now after that game, I'm sure the whole nation knew who ty3 was. Now, how did you deal with that new exposure?
It was funny because it kind of, like I said, put me on the map. That was one of the things that started to open up people's eyes, scouts' eyes, the paper's eyes, people around Iowa's eyes and around the nation, like you talked about. So I think it took a little adjustment. You can't let the limelight go to your head. You just got to continue to work hard, continue to study, and continue just to become an overall better player.
Okay. Now, how do you finish the rest of your season out? The rest of freshman season?
Rest of the freshman year went good for me. I had one of my better seasons. I think I finished with about 7 interceptions after that great year, and we ended up going to the playoffs and making a run within the playoffs. So it was overall a great year, a great redshirt freshman year.
Okay. Now let's touch on your sophomore year. Now the whole country know who ty3 is. Now, what's your experiences going in as a sophomore year and your goals?
Goals I set in the summer is just to come out, be consistent. First of all, that's the biggest thing. You get some of these guys that come out and they have great 1 years, but can't do it year in and year out. And I think my goal was in the summer to train harder than I ever trained, to take that extra step, study more film, and just like I said, have a great sophomore year instead of you hear about that sophomore slump. And came out, and I think I proved that, and I think I did that, and I ended up being an All-American.
Now, not only was you All-American defensive back, but you also was an exceptional kick returner. Go ahead and give us your experiences on being a kick returner.
Yeah, kick return. A lot of people don't like kick return, and that's one thing I enjoyed. Anytime as a defensive player, and a lot of kids in high school, everyone a lot of times play both ways. You play a little offense, you play a little defense, and me going in and being a defensive back, that was my time to touch the ball, and that was my time to shine. Where there's nothing like being able to take the life out of a game when a defensive back can return a kick and get the crowd into it and change the whole atmosphere of a game. So it was one of the things like I enjoyed, and I think I was actually pretty good at.
Okay. Now, you had a great freshman season, the rest of your freshman year. You was All-American sophomore. Now, what is the pressure of coming to be a junior, Northern Iowa University? Everybody know who you are. Everybody's targeting you in games. Now, what's your mind state and your goal? And also, you had a coaching change.
and that was the big thing. You come into a college and you get recruited by a certain coaching staff and you get comfortable, and you come in and you have 2 outstanding years, and you're coming off an All-American season, and the papers are talking, and the scouts are starting to come around, and the buzz is out there about you. And then your coaching staff, after the great the great run that we've had, gets an opportunity to go to coach at Kansas. So my coaching staff leaves and go to Kansas, and we get a new coaching staff from Toledo. Mike Dunbar brings his staff in. So now you got to go through a whole defensive scheme change and just adapt into a new coaching style. A little struggle at first, I think, because conditioning-wise I was fine. I trained harder than I ever trained. Mentally I was ready. I studied more film than I ever studied. Ready to play. But then it's the adapting to a new scheme, trying to adapt to a new coaching style. So overall, I think the season went pretty well. I'll probably give myself a B minus, coming off a plus and an A minus redshirt freshman year. So I'll probably give myself a B minus. But overall, okay season.
Now that year, I was a true freshman, and I remember I had the opportunity. I was lucky enough to be able to travel. That year, you was touted as one of the best defensive backs in the nation, and you had the opportunity to go to the NFL. What made you stay for your next senior season?
Actually, staying was probably one of my wrong decisions, but you can't go back and change back time. But one of the things I was looking at, I was touted to be a first or second round pick at coming off of my junior season, but me being the competitor that I am, wanted to be a top 10, a top 15 pick. So I felt like if I worked that much harder over the summer and got that much stronger, that much faster, studied that much more film, and had a great senior season like everyone was saying, that I could easily be a top 15 pick. So that was my decision process of staying for my senior year.
Okay, so now going to your senior season, you guys won conference 7 years in a row, but now under Coach Mike Dunbar's system, it's the first year you guys have won conference. What did that do for the team mentality? Although I know he was bringing in his recruits, you still had some veterans on that team that play under Coach Allen.
It was very difficult because, like I said, and coming into Northern Iowa, one thing you knew is that you would be going to the playoffs. You'd most likely win conference. They were on, I want to say, about an 8 or 9 year run of being, conference champions, going to the playoffs and going deep into the playoffs, and fighting for a national championship. So when the new regime came in, it was a little different because my junior year, even though I had a good season, we did not make the playoffs. So I think that's a reflection on yourself at times, because you look in the mirror and you say, hey, what's different? We broke this championship run. So going into the senior season, you try to see what you can do better, see what you can help the team, see what things you can change to get you back on that winning track. And senior season, once again, it didn't happen again. With the new coaching change, we just didn't get it on track early. We struggled early out the gates. Finished very strong, but at that time we just weren't, record wasn't good enough to make it to the playoffs.